you all for coming to our Energy Advisory Group presentation on Energy Blueprint for Michigan Tech. I'm only going to do a brief introduction here and then I'm going to pass you over to Dave, who has the real knowledge. Here's all probably 5 slides. So I just wanted to say a few things here. Just a quick example of what we're talking about here is Energy Blueprint. When I came on board, I went on the Energy Advisory Committee. I didn't necessarily know what it meant. So right now, most of our electricity from Michigan Tech is supplied to Michigan Tech. What comes from UPCO. Now, is that the right mix? Should we generate all our energy on campus? That's not. There's advantages and disadvantages, right? And we definitely want to make this a forum. That's why I call it a forum as opposed to a presentation.
Can you talk louder?
Okay. Thank you. That's what I mean by forum. So if you guys have any input, open communication, that's what we really want out of this thing. We're not just going to tell you what we think. We want to know what you think because you're part of the community. And the community has some definite input in this thing. And we'll talk about the various forms of input. Okay, the Energy Advisory Group Committee was formed under the VP for Administration, I think in the summer, last summer. So it's a relatively new group. We've been meeting every second week. There are 8 permanent members to it. We've got a few examples here. And there's 22 associate members. And we have some examples back there. So I'll introduce the permanent members. And we have Dana Johnson's School of Business. Dave, didn't mean to pass up Dave. He's actually the chair of the committee. Dave's the energy manager. Dave Schotter, chemical engineer. Dean Gale, School of Forestry, and Dane Greenlee, Chief Financial Officer. So who are we missing here? Missing a couple people. Hugh Gorman, Social Sciences. Me, Chris Wojcik, Civil Environmental Leonard Bowman, Electrical Engineering. Associate Dean of Electrical Engineering. How many associate members are there? So we have some, I think there's 22 in total. Okay, just want to go through these first 5 slides. I'll pass it over to Dave at that point. So the purpose of this, can you guys hear me in the background right now? Okay. The purpose is to provide you with some information. And the information is, how are we doing? Energy Advisory Group. How far have we gotten? In a semester and a half. So Dave's going to talk about that. Current status of the energy at Michigan Tech. What do we use for heating? What kind of energy do we use to heat the place? So we're going to give you some statistics on that. How many BTUs, blah, 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 we actually consume. Preliminary energy options. And this isn't all the energy options that are going to be out there. There's going to be more than these, but these are just some that we're sort of tossing around and saying, think about these things, give us some input. What do you think about turbines on this? What about wind turbines? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? So these are just some options, not all. And then the last thing is groundwork for the campus input, because we definitely want your input. If you have any questions during the presentation, ask them. We'll have an open session at the end as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to provide you with some information, how far we've gotten, some various energy options. You come back to us and say, okay, I think that's a lousy idea. And we'll do this in a survey as well. So we're going to be talking about Survey Monkey. There will be a survey coming out in a few weeks. And we're going to invite the whole campus to provide their input on some of these options. What do you guys think of turbines? Is that a good idea or not? Okay, our charge from the VP for Administration is to look at these things. Electrical, thermal, the university fleet, the cars that you drive when you rent one, and the facilities motorized vehicles, the motor graders, the dump trucks. things like that. That's our charge. You can see one of our charges is not water, unless it's affecting somehow by electrical, because we have to pump it. So this is our charge. Another part of the charge was that it must be consistent with a strategic plan and any renewable commitments that the university has made. So these are sort of paraphrased out of the strategic plan. Some things that we thought fit into what we're dealing with. So you can see an attractive campus. So, how does something that we propose fit into the campus? Is it going to look good? Is it going to look bad? And as you look through these things here, you see there's a lot to do with sustainability. There's a lot of green words up there. Maybe like 4 of them. Okay. And then you'll see environmental resources. So these are things we're going to be concentrating on when we come up with our objectives for this group. And then the last thing down at the bottom, I don't know if you heard about it before, it's the 25 by 25 initiative, which the university supports it. Right? And basically what this says is that by 2025, that the nation as a whole should be using 25% renewable for our energy sources. It doesn't say that the Michigan Tech's campus is going to do this, it's just the nation as a whole. In certain areas of the country may not have much potential for renewables. So it's sort of an average across the country. So we want to be consistent with that as well. So we're going to try to utilize renewables as much as possible. Okay. Another part of the charge was that consider the impacts on these things. Consider the impacts on the budget. Consider the impacts on the community. And so ideally, we're charged to consider the impacts. Ideally, the best in the world scenario is that we have a positive impact on all these things, right? Maybe we can't do that, but we're going to have to do the best we can to have as many positive impacts as we can in the decisions we make. And so finally, you put all these things together, all our charts, and these are what we came up with as a group for the objectives. See, energy is heavy into this thing. Look, electrical, thermal, motor pool, energy is heavy in our chart. So that's one of the first 3. But then you can see the environmental stewardship coming out of the strategic plan, and you can see the renewable resources coming out of the 25 by 25. So none of these things stand alone. For example, we have the generating capacity out there to generate all the power we want on campus. We have 4 diesel generators. And we can generate our own power. But what would that do? Which one would that affect? Cost. The cost, right? So, but another thing it might be a positive impact on is what? Security, right? We don't care about our company. So these are things that actually are going to be in this survey like you can send out. You guys, how many think that energy cost reduction is the thing that we should be striving for most as we look to our future energy plans? Anybody think that? Nobody thinks that. How about energy conservation? Anybody think energy conservation? All right. We have a difference of opinion here already. Unless anybody security? All right. So you see the same thing happen in our group. We voted on all these things. We said, okay, give this so many points, give this so many points. But we came up with quite a difference of opinion. So one of the things that's in the survey is these points, these 5 points here. We want to see what the community as a whole thinks. And we'll work based upon that. See that number 4, number 3, or number 2 is the top vote getter by far. Maybe that's the way we should try. So I'm done.